It is Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us on today's show. It is an award-winning mailbag edition of the show. And you may be wondering to yourself, how do I get involved in the mailbag show? Well, we do these on our live editions of Seahawks Today, which are each and every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And so if you subscribe to the channel, then you would know to join us and be alerted when we are live. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel, be a part of our mailbags, and we will answer whatever questions you guys have. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. First question comes from D-Listed. So do you think the Lions will even try if they get eliminated? Yeah, I do. They got Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, I don't think, is just going to let his team sit idly by. And you got Jared Goff, who has played much better this year, but there's always questions about his future. You have a team that has something to prove. These guys are playing for their jobs here. Yeah, I think that even if the Lions are eliminated, and they would be eliminated if the Seahawks win, I would expect them to play with everything, to give it their all. They would have no reason to not give it their all as far as I'm concerned. I think that they would go out there and make things very interesting as far as that goes, that they would give the Packers all that they can handle. The Lions have been a much better team in the second half of this year. That Fat Rat writes in, what linebackers could Seattle get in free agency, trade, or draft, or should they not even get any linebackers? Well, they definitely should look at the linebacker position, especially with the injury to Jordan Brooks. You're talking about him missing a good portion of next year. And so you're already kind of weak at that middle linebacker spot because I think we're all questioning how good Cody Barton actually is. So with that said, I think the Seahawks do need to look around when it comes to the linebacker position. Will Anderson obviously comes to mind. He's the first name I think of when it comes to the draft. I think you're looking for those guys there. Roquan Smith is also going to be a free agent. He is going to be heavily sought after, although I believe the Ravens are going to try to do everything they can to keep Roquan Smith. Trenton Simpson from Clemson's another guy to think about. There's going to be a number of players that I would consider. Don't forget Noah Sewell from Oregon as well as one of those options as well. So plenty of players to choose from. I would expect that Seahawks linebacking core to make some changes in this next offseason, whether it's the draft, free agency, trade, whatever it may be. But Roquan Smith, I think, is going to be kind of number one on everyone's list there. Adam Up says, who would the Seahawks play if they make the playoffs? They would fall in as the 7th seed, and so that would put them as either playing the Niners or Vikings. Because here's what happens. If the Eagles were to lose and the Cowboys were to win, then they would essentially, swap places there. I believe, and I could be corrected if I'm wrong here, the Eagles, Cowboys, whoever wins the division based on tiebreakers ends up as that 1 seed. The Niners actually can move up to the 1 seed. So it's somewhere in that range. It could be the Eagles, could be the Niners, Vikings, Cowboys, one of those 4. I think the most likely scenario is the Niners or the Vikings, just based on the way the odds stack up potentially. Personally, I think when you're talking about winnable games, the Niners would be a lot to handle. I think they're the team you would least want to face. The Vikings, very beatable. The Eagles are not playing their best football right now, and Jalen Hurts, of course, he's missed a couple of weeks here as of late. And then the Cowboys, I always like the idea of playing the Cowboys in the postseason here. So it could be worse as far as those potential opponents go. Confidence level in the Seahawks making the playoffs and them getting the job done, getting the win against the Rams and the Lions beating the Packers. Scale it for me 1 through 10 in the comment section below what your confidence level is. Carlos says, if we try to get Lamar Jackson, what will it take? Well, there's two different things here. First off, if he is franchise tagged, then you would be looking at a situation where you would have to give up a lot, obviously. It would have to be a couple of first-round picks at least, and then you have to pay him a new contract and all of that. And then there's the other scenario of if he were just to be a free agent, and then it's just the big paycheck. I think Baltimore would be stupid not to pay Lamar Jackson at the very least the franchise tag. Even if it comes to choosing the franchise tag between him and Roquan Smith, I think Baltimore will franchise tag Lamar Jackson. So you're not only talking about paying the quarterback, but you're also talking about giving away a lot of draft capital as well. So it's not going to be easy if you want to bring in Lamar Jackson, but we'll see. I actually think his compensation in a trade would probably be similar to that Russell Wilson trade last year. Jaime with a $75 super chat. Ow! Says, with previous drafts, the Seahawks have traded down from the first round. Who could they shop that first-round pick to, and what would they get back in return? Jaime, we're going to induct you in the Boot Hall of Fame for that $75 super chat. Stay tuned for that if you're watching on the live show. But, Jaime, let's look at that for a second. So that first pick is going to be number 3. And more than likely, going to be probably the number 3 or 4 pick, I believe, from Denver. And I think you're talking about teams that would be in the quarterback market. I would expect Bryce Young to be gone by then. I think Bryce Young is going to go number 1 or number 2. And then C.J. Stroud should be that next quarterback available. And maybe it's the Raiders as a possible option there. Whoever is looking for a quarterback, the New York Jets are going to be in the quarterback market. Whoever is looking for a quarterback to possibly move up, that to me is who I think would be in that position. I think the Texans probably already have Bryce Young at that point, so I wouldn't think the Texans are trading up to that spot. But I think there's going to be a number of teams that would be interested in acquiring that number 3 pick if C.J. Stroud is their guy. Today's show is presented by BetUS, the exclusive sportsbook partner of Chat Sports. If you go to chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code Seahawks125, you will get a 125% deposit bonus. You can bet on this weekend's game between the Seahawks and the LA Rams. You can also bet on other games across the National Football League, the NBA, college basketball, college football national championship coming up on Monday between Georgia and TCU. I like TCU plus 13. What bets are you going with? Send yours in now. Chatsports.com/bet. Timber wants to know, should the Seahawks trade Tyler Lockett this offseason? No, they should not trade Tyler Lockett this offseason as far as I'm concerned. And here is why. When you look at the cap penalty that comes with that, I find it hard to expect the Seahawks to get in return essentially what it would cost them back as far as what Tyler Lockett would mean against the cap. I just don't think the math necessarily adds up as far as I'm concerned. Look, Tyler Lockett, I understand that, he's going to get older with time and all that, sure. But at this point, in the juncture, it just doesn't make sense right now. And Tyler Lockett still playing some very good football. I know he had some injuries really for the first time in his career, some serious injuries, but I still think he's got a lot of football left. So no, I would not trade Tyler Lockett. Would you consider trading Tyler Lockett? If you would, type HY for hell yes. If not, type HN for hell no. Let me know in the comments section. HY for hell yes, HN for hell no. Dylan writes, should we think about drafting a quarterback round 1? Yeah, they should. You got 2 first-round picks. And if you're the Seahawks, I think with that first pick, assuming you stay there, you're going with either Jalen Carter or you're going with Will Anderson, whoever's available at that point. And then your second first-round pick, I think that you are considering if there's still a quarterback on the board. If C.J. Stroud were to slip, if Will Levis is available there. I don't like Anthony Richardson personally, but I think you are considering, just depending on where the draft board is at, for that second pick. You're not using it for the first pick. The first pick you're using on Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, but that second pick I think you're certainly considering. Gavin says, draft Blake Corum. Gavin, that sounds nice. Blake Corum suffered a season-ending injury at Michigan. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy Chuggs, who's in the background. I believe it was torn ACL, wasn't it? Yeah. So I'm sorry. Blake Corum, very talented player. Would have stayed healthy, probably would have won the Heisman Trophy. But I don't like running backs coming off torn ACLs. Unless he is just a major slip in the draft, to me, that's a no-go as far as I'm concerned. I like Blake Corum, very talented player, but not under those circumstances. Speed Freak says, make your estimate of Seahawks versus Rams and Lions versus Packers. Very interesting games, isn't it? I like the Seahawks' chances against the Rams. I think it's a close game. I don't feel good, though, about the Lions taking on the Packers, in all honesty. Aaron Rodgers, prime time, at home. The Packers have been playing much better football as of late. I don't feel good about that one. I feel a lot better about the Seahawks' chances against the Rams than I do the Lions' chances against the Packers. Although I think the Packers or the Lions will be competitive, I don't feel great about their odds to win that football game, quite frankly. Join us coming up on Sunday, our Seahawks-Rams watch party. We'll get things going about 30 minutes prior to kickoff. And then, if the Seahawks hold on and win that game, we are going to stay alive and do a watch party for the Packers-Lions game. We will sit here all together and find out the Seahawks' fate, if they go to the postseason or not. We will keep the party going and have a great night, no matter what. So make sure to join us, Seahawks and Rams watch party live, coming up on Sunday afternoon here on the channel. All right, Korean Bandits writes, who should Seattle draft with the number 2 first-round pick? Hoping we get Jalen Carter with the first pick we have. I like Will Anderson better than I do Jalen Carter, but I don't think you can go wrong with either player. When it comes to that second first-round pick, I think you're starting with quarterback, but then beyond that, I think you have a whole lot of different options in the arsenal. Maybe Jordan Addison is a name I've seen pop up on a couple boards for Seattle with that second pick. Star wide receiver from USC, possibly with that pick there. I would not be opposed to taking an offensive player, although the Seahawks will certainly need defensive talent in this draft. Ryer says, how F did Seattle get with the Week 18 schedule? I'll say this. It would have been much better for Seattle if these two games were at the very same time. But the NFL, their job is to put the most entertaining games in prime time. And when you look at the schedule this weekend, right now the biggest game is Lions-Packers. And Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark, what they typically do is called the best game every week on Sunday Night Football. We're waiting all day for Sunday night. Carrie Underwood, the whole shebang. You guys know what it is. So while I understand the frustration, the NFL has a job to do to provide the most entertaining scenario possible, and they're doing that by putting the best game in prime time. So I understand the frustration, but ultimately I think it was the right call. Darnell writes, should we blame officials for at least 3 of those last losses? No. I get frustrated sometimes with officials, but at the end of the day, it's your job to win the football game. It's your job to go out there and be the difference between wins and losses, what you do on the football field. I think blaming officials is weak. That's not, you can't put 3 losses on officiating. Eventually, you got to point to what you've done, some of the mistakes you've done, and the Seahawks have gotten in their own way several times this year. So, Darnell, no, I'm not blaming officials for that. As always, you can interact with me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, @Tyler Jones Live. I'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today.